All right, 7-3. This is AA4WX. Well, hey everybody. Welcome to my backyard. So, wanted to make a quick video to explain some stuff. There has been a lot of chatter, we'll call it, from some trolls and some YouTube groups, or excuse me, not YouTube groups, Facebook groups, about why should you get your ham radio license. Let's talk about that. All right, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host Josh, AA4WX, right here on Ham Shack TV. So, as I said in the intro, there's been a lot of chatter from some, what I'll just go ahead and call it like it is, trolls and some of the ham radio Facebook groups asking why should they get their ham radio license? Why should they voluntarily pay a tax? And I think we're looking at it at the completely wrong perspective. So, if you're watching this video, and I do have some notes here, if you're watching this video, I know you've heard about ham radio. Maybe you've seen it in action, whether that's at a field day or an exercise or something like that. I know ham radio has been a huge topic lately with the Hurricane Helene flooding situation in western North Carolina, northeast Tennessee, and even down into Florida and Georgia, where they have taken the bulk of the impact of the hurricanes. Let's start with community. When you get your ham radio license, you're joining a worldwide network of enthusiasts, people who are passionate about communication, technology, and helping each other out. We're talking about a hobby that brings together from retirees to kids in high school, even younger. My 8-year-old daughter is currently studying for her technician license. Not just kids in high school. This goes all the way down to kids in elementary school. Take it from me, the friendships that you make in this hobby are long-lasting. You'll find mentors, teammates, and lifelong friends. I know I can speak to that because several people I've known for many, many, many years. One being N4JTQ, Rick Sawaya, out of Sevierville. He's one of the first amateur radio operators that I met. He is actually one who gave me my technician test back in 2010. Known him for a long time. Great, great friend. I've had some friends that have came and gone. I'll shout out Jason Roach, KF4VDX. He was a silent key. Unfortunately, I lost him at the early age of around 43. I think that's how old he was. He had stage 4 colon cancer, I believe it is, and we lost him, probably 5 or 6 years ago. Matter of fact, he lived 2 streets down from where I do. So unfortunately I didn't live in this neighborhood at that point, but he was a very good friend. I can remember several times, me and him bonded over Skywarn. He was the district coordinator, and you know, we would sit up late at night watching little pop-ups on the radar, thinking, you know, we're going to have to watch this one. It could develop pretty quickly. We're talking about the springtime severe weather season. So I desperately miss Jason. Greg Williams, K4HSM, was also very close friends. Greg is the new district coordinator. I say new, but it's been about 5 years now. I've got other friends like Brady, KY4CQ. I've known him since I got my license. And here we are 14 years, almost 15 years later. So you make some great friends. With my VE team I used to have, I've got several great friends all across the country. So you make these friendships and bond with these people, and it's just wonderful. Now let's talk about emergency communications. This is one of the most important reasons to get your ham radio license. When all else fails, when cell phone towers are down, when the internet goes dark, ham radio operators can still get messages through. I can't stress this enough. Ham radio plays a crucial role during disasters. From hurricanes and tornadoes to earthquakes and wildfires, amateur radio is often the only form of communication left standing. Licensed hams volunteer their time and expertise to provide life-saving communication when it's needed most. And you can be a part of that. You don't need to be a first responder to make a huge impact on your community. Now, that's a lot of the argument that people have been making, especially in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene and now Milton. The big question that's being thrown out is, do you have to have a license to help during the emergencies? And that's a two-sided answer, okay? From a responding issue, yes, you should probably have your ham radio license. So, that said, let's say that you're in part of these floodwaters, okay? You could have a radio on you, but you don't have your ham radio license, or you don't have your GMRS license. If you are in threat of losing your life or in a desperate emergency situation and have no other means, absolutely pick up the radio and call out. That could be on a police band, that could be on a fire band, it could be any radio. That will not be frowned upon by the FCC. However, if you are on the responding end, so if you hear somebody talking about they're in an emergency situation, yes, you shouldn't pick up the mic and talk without a license. You yourself are not in that life or death emergency at that point. So that's unfortunately the nature of it. It's really, really easy to get your ham radio license, and we'll talk about that a little more soon. If you're a tech enthusiast, ham radio is like a playground for your brain. The hobby where you can experiment with electronics, antennas, and digital modes and get real-time results. You don't need a huge budget to get started, and once you're licensed, the sky's the limit. Now, that being said, there are three grades of ham radio license. One, the first class is your technician license. That is the easiest to obtain as far as ham radio goes. All you need to do is to be able to pass a 35-question exam and pay a $35 licensing fee. Now, that said, I've got a great partner, Ham Radio Prep. HamRadioPrep.com. Use coupon code HamShackTV for an extra 10% off their already amazing prices. So go to Ham Radio Prep and use coupon code HamShackTV to check that out. But again, they have all three license courses, the technician, the general, and the extra class. They also have some other classes that you can take as well. So check them out. I'll show a little bit more of them after a while. So let's talk about how easy it is. You can take your test online. You don't have to go anywhere. There is a great tool that came out, I guess it was a little bit before COVID, called Exam Tools. That enables volunteer examiners, or VEs as we call them, to administer ham radio license exams remotely through Zoom. It's super, super easy. I ran a team myself over the past year, and I've tested over 1,000 ham radio license applicants. It is fantastic. So, talk about the process. So there's a couple of ways of doing this. One, you can use Ham Radio Prep, as I said before, and coupon code HamShackTV for the extra 10% off. There is a great deal where you can get all three licenses courses in one swoop and actually get an even bigger discount on it. That's what I recommend. Just go ahead and get them all. Go ahead and get all three courses. That doesn't mean you have to test on all three of them, but hey, you've already paid for them, you've got them in your pocket, you're ready to use them. Now, let's say your budget's even slimmer. You can use something called hamstudy.org. Hamstudy.org is a fantastic free program. Free with one caveat. You can use hamstudy.com or hamstudy.org to take practice exams. And the great thing about that is it'll tell you where you're lacking. Here's the only issue I have with HamStudy. You're not learning any of the context. For many people, it's easier to have the context to be able to remember the answers. However, like I said, if you've got a little bit more limited of a budget, that's fine too. Check out hamstudy.org. Sign up for an account. Now, like I said, that is free through hamstudy.org. However, if you want the mobile app, and the mobile app's fantastic. I used it to study for my extra class last year. If you want the mobile app, it's $3. Cup of coffee, candy bar, McDonald's McDouble, it's nothing. One time, $3, you're done. So Hamstudy.org is fantastic. It's available both on iOS and Android. All right, so what do? Here's my advice. You keep taking practice tests until you are consistently getting 80% or above. Again, consistently getting 80% above. If you can take 5 practice tests in a row and get 80s or above, you're ready to take your test, and you'll very likely pass it. So once you've done that, you move on and find an examiner to give you an exam. Like I said, you can do the online method, but there's also in-person testing all over the country. So you can go to the ARRL's website and search volunteer examiners. Also on HamStudy, there is an option to search for a volunteer examiner. Again, both options. You can do it online or you can do it in person. Most exam fees are $10 to $15. So there is that expense, and there is no getting around that. You'll have to pay an exam fee with pretty much everyone. I know there are some caveats for military. Some of the volunteer examiners offer free testing for military. So check that out. Don't have a list of those, but check that out. They're a great help. Now, what else do we have? After you've taken your exam, you have to get you'll get a document called the CSCE. That is your Certificate of Successful Completion of Examination. Now, that said, that is not a license yet. That is simply the document that proves that you passed your test. Your volunteer examiner will submit your paperwork to the FCC on your behalf. But that said, let's talk about how much you have to pass the exam. So the technician and general classes are both 35 questions, okay? You must have at least 26 or 27. I think it's 26 or 27 in order to pass the exam. It's that easy. Had an old friend of mine, W4PGM, shout out to Paul. When I took my technician exam, he told me something that's stuck with me ever since, not only in ham radio, but for any kind of test I've taken. If you make a 74 or above, or if you make above a 74, you're just showing off. I don't want you to keep that mentality because I want you to be getting 80% or above, but all you need is a 74. You don't get bonus privileges just for getting a better score. Just worry about passing the exam. That's the most important part. All right, so you've passed your test. Your volunteer examiner team, they will submit to the FCC on your behalf. Then it's the waiting period. You should, and I say should, get an email from the FCC within 24 to 48 hours after taking your exam. Depends on the day of the week and whether there's any technical malfunctions or anything like that. That email will be for you to pay your $35 license fee. So once you pay that $35 license fee, you don't have to pay another fee for 10 years. Your ham radio license will be good for 10 years. After you've paid your fee, roughly 24 to 48 hours later, your call sign will be issued and will be available in the FCC's ULS database. Once you see your call sign active in the FCC database, you can pick up your radio and squeeze that push to talk for the first time. And you might have some mic fright, and that's fine. But you don't get anywhere without starting. That's how you do it. All right. You finished your technician, you're on the air, that kind of thing. You start to get curious about HF. Granted, you do have a very, very small HF window with the technician class license as far as the band plan goes. You only get a certain small section of the 10-meter band. You get more interested in HF, want to talk around the world on just 5 watts and a wire, you can do that. But you need to get your general class license in order to do that. That opens up a lot of the HF bands. You'll do the same process. Use hamradioprep.com. Use coupon code HamShackTV for an extra 10% off. Maybe you've already bought all 3 courses. That's fine too. You go back to Ham Radio Prep and start studying for general. The same exact way you studied for your technician. And then your extra. And then whatever else. So, that's as simple as that. Now, once you've gotten to the extra class, you're done. There's no more testing after that. You've achieved the highest class license there is. And you don't have to be in a rush to do that. You don't have to do that day one. Let me tell you my process. When I first got my ham radio license back in 2010, I took it, passed it in January. Then I turned around and took my general and passed it in May. I didn't think I would ever care about the HF. But then I got an HF rig myself and started playing with it, and then I started getting very curious. So I went ahead and went back to ham radio prep and started studying for, ham study, and started studying for my extra class exam. And lo and behold, I passed it. Here we are. I never have to take another exam as far as ham radio goes ever again. So that's it. Now, if we were talking about ham radio prep a minute ago as well, not only do they have the licensing courses, they also have a Baofeng Basics course. I know most everybody under the sound of my voice will have a Baofeng radio at some point or another. They're just, the price is right. They're a good disposable radio. But that Baofeng Basics course, it will teach you how to operate that Baofeng radio, how to program it, things like that. Ham Radio Prep also has an emergency communications course, and they have an HF masterclass. Maybe you're new to HF and need to learn what all those buttons and knobs and whistles do on your brand new FTDX10 or something like that. HF masterclass can help with that. So, with all that said, I appreciate you watching. Y'all are great, great group of followers here. If you want to join the community, check down in the description for the link to the Discord server. We've got tons of people on the Discord server. You have questions, need help with something, we've got some great Elmers on there that would be glad to help you out. If you want to support the channel, there's links down below that will certainly help the channel. Anything that you do in those links down below. If you aren't a subscriber on YouTube, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That certainly helps the channel. And one final thing before I go. I hope that this video has put out some squashing to all this drama that's been going on these Facebook forums about having your license. If you don't want your ham radio license, don't get it. But stay off the bans. Why do you have to have a license for a ham radio? You have to have a license because it's a privilege. It's not a right. And it's not part of your Second Amendment rights. I'm sorry, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it is not part of your Second Amendment rights. You do not have the right to transmit on a radio without a license. Do you have the right to go jump in a car and drive down the road? And I'm speaking United States only. Do you have a right to jump in a car and drive down the road without a license? What's going to happen if that cop pulls you over? You're going to get a ticket, or you may go to jail. No one's going to put you in jail over ham radio. Never. It's going to be a civil fine. And we're not talking about a little $300 fine either. We're talking thousands and thousands of dollars, as well as the confiscation of any equipment you may own. And there's no fighting that. So that's it. I hope that you have a great day. Thanks for watching. And I hate to be harsh, but I am sick of hearing this nonsense. If you don't want the license, don't get it. And if you're not a test taker, that's fine too. Get your GMRS license. Same thing, $35, but you don't have to take a test. So, 7-3s everybody, we'll chat soon. I've got a great deal on a radio coming up that I'm gonna tell you all about, so stay tuned. Subscribe, like, follow, and share the video out with your friends and family. This is AA4WX, CB 69373.